Hello everybody, my Pollard Willows starting to look, well, just out of scale. I'll try and find some photos of some Pollard Willows around and about that have been left after many years of pollarding to their own devices, and they do have these big long stems in more or less this proportion. However, what they do have then is a lot more ramification at the top. I'm still building this trunk, so I'm going to give this quite a severe chop. Back to just to give that almost as if the tree had gone back to spring and had been pollarded. It's now going to have to throw out a whole new bunch of shoots, and hopefully that'll continue to contribute to the swelling at this part of the tree that I want for future years. It's going to need this on a fairly regular basis, probably 1 year on, 1 year off, in as much as I probably have to repot this tree next spring, so it will get this treatment in the spring and a repot, but then it will just be allowed to grow and not get this second chop after that, so that it can rebuild some strength, rebuild its roots. But this tree wasn't repotted this year, so I'm just going to chop it. And I'm even going to take off these little pieces. In for a penny, in for a pound, as they do say. It has beginning to have the look now. We have the trunk is almost the exact opposite of what you would look for in bonsai. We have a definite inverse taper, then leading up to this chunky lump at the top, full of scarring. Yeah, I've told this story before, but it may be your first look at one of my videos, or maybe your first look at my pollards. I spend a lot of time out in the countryside here in Somerset, and I see these pollards all the time, and for some reason they just appeal to me in their ugliness, and I've decided that this is probably the tree I shall want to keep one day when I'm in an elderly person's home somewhere. I'll be able to say to the members of staff, see that tree out there on the windowsill? Go and cut the top off it, make it look like this, and even if I'm too old to look after any other bonsai, I'll still have this to remind me of days of my youth, out walking the dog, tramping across the countryside. Silly? Yeah, probably, but there's nothing wrong with being silly occasionally. It's good for the soul, I think. This is a prime example of a pollarded willow that was pollarded for many years, and then has just been left to grow, and it's grown those long old stems, but then they have subdivided, and so you have lots of ramification. The trunk itself is just well, I love it. It's just all hollowed out and dead and dying bits, and yeah, I would love to be able to replicate that in a tree for myself, but I don't have enough years left in me, I don't believe. That's only years can make that sort of a difference. Different kettle of fish with this one. I'm not really going to do very much. This is a little fusion project that I've got on the go. that I created this spring from a group of young willows cuttings held in place with some grafting tape, and I'm going to just try and let them fuse naturally. So I'm not going to do very much to this one, except I'm just going to nip out the tips, just like so. Just to make it a little bit more bushy on the bench. We're doing Choopsy, eh? Always with the nagging, eh? We go for a walk in a minute. Yes, we will. You're a good boy. Yeah, so just a little bit of a trim, just to promote a little bit of bushiness, but nothing drastic. On that one, here's a thing you don't see that often. This big old pollarded willow hasn't been pollarded in a long old time. It's just been left to grow, and it's hard to see while it's fully in leaf, but a seed of a hawthorn has been dropped in the rotted in centre, I suppose you would say, and has sprouted, and so we have a hawthorn sort of sitting piggyback on the willow. So I just thought I'd share that. As you can see, this whole swathe of willows here haven't been touched in a long old time, to the point where their own weight has brought down some of the branches. But there we are. These are all white willow, I believe. Okay, here's my little groupling of 5 Zelkovas, grown away quite nicely since I planted them together in this pot. I don't want to do too much to this tree, so these trees at the moment I want them to get their feet under them, as it were, get their roots established in the pot, but on the other hand I don't want it to get too scraggly, so I'm just going to trim back some of this taller growths, just to keep it kind of in bounds of where I want it to be. It'll get more of a structural prune in the autumn, but this is just don't want it to get too far and spread out, putting lots of energy into long growths that I don't necessarily want. At the moment all the trees are about the same height. I want these 2 trees to be my primary trees, so I'm looking for them to be taller in the end, so I'm just going to trim these down a little more at the back here. Some of these growths are really quite good, quite long. This will just help it to bush out a bit more and give me some more range of options later in its development. I'm going to trim that one back, that's better. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so that's tidied that up a little bit. As I say, that'll help it now to bush out and give us more range of options, perhaps in the winter time. We had some rain yesterday and some damp weather, and turntable's playing up a little bit. Gonna lose that piece there. That's a little too low. You can see by the way the trunk is still a little unstable that the roots haven't filled the pot yet. So hence I'm not going to do a huge amount of work to it. We'll come back and look at these trees in the winter time. Okay, this one is doing okay. Not much sign of any real fusion at these points as yet, but then I didn't really expect it to. I am going to just trim off a couple of these little sections here, but this piece I have persuaded to grow through the middle of this opening. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. So we have a gap here where I had a sucker come up from the root base, which has been tied into the trunk, if you remember. And this side piece I've just wrapped in and around, and we'll just let that grow. So same for the top as for the other one. Just going to nip out a few of these tips, and I don't know if you can see that I've had a visit from the sawfly, willow sawfly. I think I've got them all now. I've had to manually remove them, but they will strip leaves overnight, and they look a lot like a caterpillar, but yeah, terrible things. They will just do untold damage to a willow. In the wild, of course, a few caterpillars on a large willow tree, not really an issue. You know, the tree loses a few leaves and off it goes. On a bonsai, it can be a different story. I think this one will be alright. I think I caught most of them in time, and the tree will just hopefully act as if it had been partially defoliated, throw out a lot of new shoots. I'm not, as I say, going to chop this one back hard at this point, and I don't think I'm going to repot this one next year. I might, but well, we'll have to wait and see. So let's zoom back out, and we'll give you a bit of a 360. Move you back just a fraction, so you can see the whole tree. So I'm really quite pleased with the overall silhouette of this tree, and it is quite evocative of some of the pollards we have in the wild around here. So it's just a question of being patient and achieving the fusion that I desire. Thank you all for watching, and in these strange times, please take care of yourselves. Stay safe.